You're still watching Your Week in 60 Minutes as we bring you the very best of this week's top stories by our journalists. Various activities took place around South Africa aimed at celebrating her diversity and cultures. We bring you a roundup of some of those events, including President CYRIL Ramaphosa's address. Let's have a look.
President CYRIL Ramaphosa says all South Africans must work to preserve the country's heritage.
This is a task that does not fall on government shoulders alone, but on all our shoulders. We must become our own historians. Our elders and our cultural practitioners are like libraries, valuable libraries of our past. They have a wealth of information, and we must tell their stories. As families, let us encourage our children to spend more time with their grandparents and great-grandparents, to listen to them, and where possible, to record the histories of our people. Someday, our children will pass this on to their own children, who may themselves become cultural practitioners, authors, filmmakers, museum curators, and tour guides.
Ramaphosa says South Africans must also reflect on the riots that took place in July.
In the aftermath of the violence, we have had to ask ourselves, who are we as a people? What is it that defines our national character? What is it that defines our identity? What do we stand for? I would like us to reflect on these very important questions, because the values we live by and the principles we stand for define us as much as what we wear, the food we eat, the languages we speak, the music we listen to, and they also make up our way of life.
Ramaphosa has called on South Africans to unite and rebuild the country.
Thanks to our freedom, we are able to see each other, not as black or white, not as man or woman, not as city dweller or rural dweller, but just simply as South Africans. As South Africans, let us unite to rebuild this, our beautiful country. Let us get on with the task of recovery from this pandemic. To do so, let us find one another again and unite as we have done so many times in the past. Our unity in our diversity is the most valuable feature of our common heritage.
The President has acknowledged that the divisions of the past cannot be healed until poverty, inequality and unemployment are eradicated. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Bali Tatani in Johannesburg.
In the heart of Opokweli lies a quaint village, a celebration of AMAZULU. The INDLONDLO Cultural Village was opened to tourists in 2019 by marine engineer Msizeni Mkadi. He had already been touring with the INDLONDLO Zulu dancers, a group of young professional traditional dancers who've gained global recognition.
I started this cultural village because of the experience I have with INDLONDLO Zulu dancers, because we've been traveling around the world. We've been performing in cruise ships. We've been representing South Africa in cultural exchange in Italy in 2016, and we learned a lot when we were together with other cultures. Since we see people appreciating the Zulu culture, especially dance, cultural dance and music and drumming, and then we have that feeling, and then I speak with the boys. I said, no, I have to speak with the local chief, Mdluli, who's a head of this area, to actually grant us some land so that we can build a cultural village to practice our culture and welcome other people from different cultures, so that we bring unity and peace, and also keep the young people away from wrongdoings, and show how important is a Zulu culture, because it's an identity of us, and it connects very well with our ancestors.
The village is run entirely by volunteers. These youth have come here to showcase their culture to tourists, to keep their heritage alive.
It is important because in schools, children they are not taught about their cultures and their roots. So I think we are too focused on like the education system of South Africa is very, very focused in Western language and in Western culture. There are so many rituals that we are doing, and there are so many practices that we are doing that are teaching one another, that help us in understanding the way of life.
The village showcases a traditional Zulu home, food and prayers.
Wow, being a Zulu woman. Ngiyangijabulisa ukuba umZulu. And ngiyasiqhenya ngokuba umZulu. Celebrating our Zulu cultures is also helping us. Kuyasiza kakhulu uku celebrate ama cultures akwaZulu ngezinto ezihlukahlukene. Ukuyi celebrate nje ngokugqoka nokwenza kwenza wena ugcine usufuna ukuperforma, ukukwenza, ukukuphila wena ngaphakathi.
Ngadi's aim is for young South Africans to be actively involved in cultural activities over Western ideals.
I've been trying by all means to help the young ones to concentrate and love the culture, but because of a lot of things happening, especially Western, and young people, they tend to appreciate more of Western than the culture. So I still wish Department of Arts and Culture, government, to actually invest and put more programs and money to our culture and heritage, so that people won't get lost. They must know their well-being. They must know where they're coming from. They must not undermine the culture, because I know culture is a key to connect with God, so that we can get the blessing.
The village has become an international attraction, and these cultural dancers are expected to head off to the Netherlands in November for the African Diaspora Performing Arts Festival. They're hoping for funding from the private and public sectors.
We represented South Africa and Zulu culture in so many places. As we speak, I welcomed Russians here. I welcomed twice Americans. Even did a traditional Zulu wedding for the couple from America in January. We had to do all the rituals and show them how we do cultural wedding. And I welcomed Northern Ireland here. I welcomed Holland. I welcomed France. So within this space of 2 years, that is a very big achievement that I'm proud of, with my boys, with my community as well.
Isiko lethu liyikhaya lethu liyimvelaphi lethu. Akumele silahle, akumele silibale sikhohlwe yilo. Kumele nje sikhambise ukuthi singamaZulu, noma thi uhlanga luni, noma waXhosa, uSuthu, Venda, anywhere in the country, but if wazi ukuthi we belong to a certain tribe, kumele upractice ama rituals nama practice akhona.
For Newzroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Karinda Jagmohan at INDLONDLO Cultural Village.
games in South Africa risk extinction. The threat is created by the fact that old people in the country do not have enough time to transfer their skills and knowledge to the younger generation. The games play an important role in various communities. Research shows that these games can be used to advance and create a connection between classroom activities and real-life contexts. Some even argue each game has specific skills and rules aimed at promoting certain African values. Aside from the physical prowess, it builds communication, cognitive and strategizing skills.
It's about our indigenous games, it's about our indigenous knowledge systems. It's a lot of things that we need to celebrate. We speak a lot about how other countries have been able to influence the world. And if you look at it, they use the arts, they use sports as a way to transmit their cultures to the various countries. The US has done it over the years, and that's why everybody wants to be an American, because they are conscious of that transmission of their culture. The same thing applies to us, and that's why we put so much priority into our avenues, like these indigenous games, the arts and so forth, so that we're able to transmit that.
Some of the games are not only educational but also harness self-preservation skills. One such game is Indonga, or stick fighting. This is a martial art traditionally practiced by teenage Nguni herd boys. Indonga was used to resolve local disputes and sometimes to win a girl's heart. It was also used to determine which boy would become the herd boy's supervisor, Induna. In the Indonga game, a strike on the head is not acceptable. However, a knockout hit leads to a win.
It's to keep our custom and then keep our traditional and then keep our culture going for the next coming years, so that the next coming generation will learn these kind of games. I think those are things fading, those that were ignorant, because these games, they start from the regional level up until to the national levels.
Other popular games include Diketo. This is a popular game in southern African countries. Different communities execute it differently. In Lesotho and Mozambique, the game is usually played from a shallow hole dug on the ground. But Dibeke and Koko have drawn the most attention of the lot. Both games involve a lot of running and demand endurance. South Africa is known for its cultural and linguistic heritage. The Constitution of the Republic protects freedom of cultural expression, and our country's cultural diversity is embodied in its arts and culture. Senne diomela mogobotu ke katskats tweja na magalifi ke je ke qete ke poteka nqane ha ntse ro ntshebile ke ra ke a ja letho ha umphana malele bise wa mfereka.
It's been long feared that the current youth is fast losing its cultural roots. But judging by this healthy turnout at this year's Indigenous Games, it seems that the future of our heritage is in safe hands. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Kgosilentswe.
This is how we end this week's episode of Your Week in 60 Minutes. Thank you for staying with us. Do join us again next week, same time. Stay tuned for more news right here on Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405, our news, our views.